What's cracking, guys? Omar Isaf here, back with another video, back with the first voiceover video in quite some time. If you enjoy the training videos, make sure to give this video a like. This is the 5th week of the mass phase. I have more details on that, what I'm planning on 2020. It's time to get juicy, yucky, everything in between. Insert your adjective. But right now, I'm going to show you my push workout, and I want to talk about the topic of training to failure, which is quite popular recently. And essentially what I want to say is that training to failure is both useful and useless, and I'll describe exactly what that means.
I'm gonna let you guys in on a huge secret. Dude, don't stand so far. Come closer. I don't want these motherfuckers here. Then everyone's gonna be benching big. Everybody asks me, Omar, how do you bench big? You know, I got a monster bench press, 375 pounds at 185 pounds. Never been done before, right? So I get asked all the time.
Never been done.
If we look at it, never. I DM on DM. Hey Omar, send me a dick pic, and I say, okay, here you go, bro. So that's how to bench bigger. And the secret, normally I charge thousands and thousands of dollars. My mastermind group, you could join that, link down below. But the secret of benching more is actually just benching more. Now I know that sounds counterintuitive, you know, practicing what you want to become better at, being specific with the movement that you want to try and excel. It sounds counterintuitive, but think about it. It's one of those catch-22s.
I'm going to use my workout to illustrate my exact point. It depends upon the individual. This workout you're going to see, I'm regaining strength. So I'm using the bench press as my primary strength movement. It's something I care about. Today I've programmed for myself 285 pounds for 5 sets of 4. Then I'll do some back off sets and I'll move on. I'll do some accessory movements. And there's a drastic way I train my primary movement from my accessory movements. So I train them differently. What I want to talk about that particular topic, training to failure. Let's first talk about when it can be useful. If your goal is primarily hypertrophy, you want to build muscle, and you're a beginner, you're an early intermediate lifter, you can't really assess your own fatigue. You're not really good at RPE. You think it's an RPE 8, but really you still have 4 reps left in the tank. Maybe you never played sports and you're not used to pushing yourself.
You know, guys, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a history lesson here. And that is, I'm doing something revolutionary today, and I'm doing 4 reps. This is actually known as black magic in powerlifting. The Strength Heroes Imperial team actually has notified me that it's illegal to do this. You can do 5 reps, because that's your strength base, as we know. Triples, because you can do that with 1 breath. But 4, you're not supposed to do it. This is kind of like the tritone back in the classical era, where it just sounded like devil's music. So you could say right here, we're running with the devil when we do 4 repetitions. What's gonna happen, Severin? 5 is your strength base. 3 is kind of working on specificity. 4, I think you're gonna become a freak of nature if you try 4 reps out.
Training to failure is a really good way of making sure that you have an adequate amount of intensity in order to stimulate hypertrophy. And this becomes relevant for individuals that don't have a long time to train. If you only have 1 day to train per week, training to failure is pretty much your best bet. 2 times per week, I'd probably make the same argument. 3 times and a beginner or early intermediate, and you only really want to train 60 to 75 minutes, that's when there's a lot of utility for training to failure. And again, if your sole focus is hypertrophy, but this becomes less relevant the more experienced you are. And remember, we try and increase our overall training frequency to increase training volume, because training volume, good training volume, I'm not talking about junk volume, is one of the key drivers for hypertrophy. So we want to gradually increase our volume over time. So 3 sessions are not going to be sufficient. 4 sessions, 5 sessions. For myself, I really like to spread it out, and I do 6 sessions. But this becomes even more relevant not to train to failure, why it's useless for compound movements if one of your goals, primary or secondary, maybe even tertiary, is strength. And we only need to take a look at individuals that are very strong.
Have you trained your upper inner pec today?
My what?
Your upper inner pec today?
You're right. He's right. Guys, he's right. How could I forget? Thank you. Where would I be without you?
Nowhere.
Working at McDonald's.
With a flat chest.
We only need to take a look at individuals that are very strong, the coaching teams that produce the best natural athletes. So I'm thinking the IPF here, I'm thinking Bryce Lewis and TSA, I'm thinking Mike Teixeira and RTS, I'm thinking individuals like Joey Flex, who has an all-star roster. I'm thinking of teams like Barbell Medicine, I'm thinking of individuals like Eric Helms. If we take a look at how they program their athletes, those are the tippity top, lifting the most amount of weight. They want to be the strongest they can be. They never, and I should emphasize this, and one of them can correct me if I'm speaking counter to how they program, but observing what they put out online and what their athletes do, they never program training to failure. They might do a single at a RPE 9, so they maybe have a 1 rep left in the tank, or 9.5, but they'll never go to actual failure. And that is because you need to manage global fatigue in an athlete that cares about performance.
What are you doing?
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Auditioning for Dubai.
Oh,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah, anytime you see any of your favorite lifters or bodybuilders go over to Dubai, there's probably like a 70% chance they're jumping out of some sort of birthday cake for someone at some point in that trip.
Oh, yeah, I know. I have the bookmark.
Yeah.
The website bookmark.
Yeah, I got my Speedo figured out. Why do you think I'm really leaning down this year? It's a business move, guys. I want to be more market viable would be the terminology. Smart. Yeah.
And so training to failure on a compound movement has too much fatigue towards the benefit that they might attain from pushing themselves at that intensity. Over time, individuals become better at assessing their own RPE, and this is where intermediate lifters, advanced lifters will tend to rely on it, because they can secrete what I would say is the crazy. They could tap into their resources in order to really train hard. I could speak for myself now and say that what you'll notice on those 285-pound sets, 5 sets for 4 repetitions, I'm training at a pretty high intensity. It's a RPE 9. I could do 1 more rep, but not a second repetition. So the RPE is quite high. When I do my accessory movements, on the other hand, and I'll use in particular the incline bench press, where I was happy with the form and the overall intensity, I had a few reps left in the tank. Because I use a higher volume approach, I have to manage that fatigue. I'm doing set after set. And for myself, I have found that is one of the best ways for me to get gains. But on an accessory movement, I try and stimulate the particular muscle. So you'll notice the technique changes. On the bench press, when I go all out, so on the 5 sets of 4, I'm trying to be as explosive as possible. I'm trying to lift the weight however I can. And so the technique is pretty good, but I'm focusing on maximum velocity and the most amount of reps I can get.
Want to get some pizza after?
Nah, I'm paleo.
Okay, you want to get some grass after?
Yeah, I know a good patch around the corner.
Okay.
When it comes time to do accessory movements, on the other hand, I'm really trying to feel it in the particular muscle. And so the question becomes, when conditionally can training to failure be useful? And I'd say, once again, for isolation movements. So let's get rid of the 2 extremes. Beginners who can benefit from it and those that don't have a lot of time. And then we talk about performance athletes that really, they care about lifting a lot of weight, and for them, it doesn't make any sense. For the recreational lifter that maybe wants to build muscle and get stronger, there are some conditions where training to failure can be useful. And one of them would be for some isolation movements. And that is because it will not incur too much fatigue in your body. When you do bicep curls, if you're doing 85 pounds, and instead of doing 10 repetitions, you go to failure and you do 12 repetitions, that's not a lot of fatigue. And if you're training 4, 5, 6 days per week, that is completely fine, but you need to think of the context of the movement that you're doing. So we use certain movements as vehicles for hypertrophy or vehicles for other goals. And so it's context dependent. And I would say every individual, only the individual can really answer that question. So I'm gonna pose it for you guys watching this video. Do you train to failure? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your current training level, what your goals are. I would suspect that individuals that want to build more muscle, they'll tend to favor it. And it's once again a way of ensuring a certain amount of fatigue where you're training at an intensity that's requisite in order to induce hypertrophy. Anyways, we're back with videos every other day. Thank you so much for watching this voiceover. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the damn video. If you're not a subscriber, what are you doing? and I'll see all you guys, my rascals, in that next one. Peace.
Eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your fucking vegetables.